Hey everybody, this is Mr. Munson. We're still in Chapter 2, Circles, but today is Concept 7, and it's the last concept we're going to do. So it's 2.7 equations of circles, so we're going to be writing some equations. Let's look at our I can statements. I can find the radius and center of a circle given its equation. I can graph the equation of a circle. I can write the equation of a circle given its radius or diameter and center. I can write the equation of a circle given two endpoints of a diameter. We need to be able to do all four of those things by the end of this lesson today, as well as practicing it and looking at a test and quiz. Let's get started. We're going to start by reviewing something that you learned in Algebra 1, and that is when you look at an equation, you can tell a lot of secrets about it. First of all, that equation is in standard form for a linear equation, y equals mx plus b. Okay, that plus b, this number right here, tells me where it crosses the y-axis. So I can just put a point right there at -2, and that tells me exactly where that line is going to eventually cross the y-axis. The second thing I know is that 4. The 4 represents the slope, and slope can be written as a fraction so that I can look at rise over, you got it, run. So what I'm going to do is go to that -2, and I'm going to find another point on that line, so I just simply draw it. So I'm going to go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1. Okay? Once I've done that, I can draw the line. And there I have the equation of the line drawn. Okay? I didn't create an x and y column and start plugging in x's and getting y's and so on. I just simply looked at the equation and saw secrets about the equation that allowed me to write it or draw it without doing any calculations. We can kind of do the same thing exactly with this equation. Now I know a squared graph is something of this form. It's a y equals x squared kind of graph. It's a parabola. So once again, this -3 tells me where it crosses the y-axis. So I'm just going to put a point right there. And so if what I remember about parabolas is that that's the low point for it. And so then I can just start plotting points for the parabola. And if you're not sure how to do that, that's not the point of this lesson today. It's just simply to tell you, what I want to show you is that we learned in Algebra 1 that looking at an equation, I can graph it as long as I know how to interpret what it is in the equation. And we're going to do that same thing for circles. Let's take a look at circle equations now. Okay, circle equations, just like other equations, have standard form. They're going to follow the y minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And here's the thing, the h and the k represent the center of the circle in the coordinate plane, x and y axis, right? And so that h and k is some x and the k is some y. That represents the circle's center. So that's the hk point. Okay, r stands for radius. Take a look, the radius is squared. So if I know the radius is 6, then I have to square it before I stick it in that place. Here's something how an equation might look. Suppose I had something like this, x minus 3 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 36. That would be an equation that has a radius of 6. I have to square that number before I stick it into the equation. And so this equation right here has some center at 3, 5. Cool. Let's move on. All right, let's see if you got an idea of what we're doing here. Okay, so we're going to write an equation for a circle that has a center at 3, 5 and a diameter of 12. Excuse me. So see if you can write that on your own. Then check your work with me in just a moment. Put me on pause. So if you're paying attention, I just did this, right? We got x minus 3 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals, okay, so this is the diameter now, folks. So I have to do a little bit of thinking here. The diameter is the diameter is 12, so the radius is equal to 6. So before I go stick the number in that belongs there, I have to square it to get it. So, of course, we'd put a 36 there. And there's your equation for the circle that has a center at 3, 5, diameter of 12. Let's move on. How about this one? Center is at -3, 5, and the radius is at square root of 3. Some little interesting things are going to happen here, and so I want you to pay close attention. See if you can do this one. See if you can put this one in standard form. Don't forget to square that before you put it into the number area. Put me on pause, come back and check your work. All right, the first thing I do and I advocate that you do is write the standard form. So I know where to put pieces. Next thing, I just take the pieces and put them in their proper place, right? I've got x minus a -3 and a y minus a +5 equals, I think I kind of messed up there, 3, right? So I have r equals the square root of 3. So I have to square both sides to get it. Now, squaring a square root, and we've talked about this before, allows the 3 to just simply drop out. You can do that on the calculator if you want, square root of 3 squared if you want, but it's a waste of time. The 3 drops out. So I just want to draw your attention to this right here. We never leave a subtraction of a negative number like that, ever. You'll never see that in any book or anything like that. So we're going to clean that up. Whenever we subtract a negative number, it becomes an addition, right? We're going to take that and turn it into a +3. Don't worry. Oh, Mr. Munson, that's no longer in standard form. That's in standard form. Simplified standard form. A subtraction of a negative number becomes a plus addition problem, okay? All right, so now we just answer it. There's my center. Very good. Same thing, right? So we were given the center and a radius and asked to write the equation. There's my answer. Easy sneezy. Let's move on. Okay, here's some more problems that I want you to work on. I'm going to have you put me on pause and then come back to it. Try to do these on your own, okay? Start with number 4. Put me on pause. Come and check my work. Okay, hopefully those two pieces of information was easy to do. This is r squared equals 25. So I take square root of both sides, and that leaves me with r equals 5. That was easy enough. This is a plus sign there, so that tells me that I need to put a -3 in for the y. It's going to be kind of opposite, if you will. If it says positive, it's going to be negative number. It's going to be if it says subtraction, it's going to be a positive number. Okay, but this probably caused you some concern. So what's normally there is something like this, where there's a number in for h, but there's no h, there's no number there. So what number could I possibly put in for h to make it completely disappear and end up just being x squared instead of x minus h? Think about that for a second. What number could I put in for h to make it completely disappear? And it's 0. X minus 0 gives me x, and then I can just write it as x squared at that point. Okay, on to number 5. See if you can do that one on your own. Put me on pause and come back and check your work. Hopefully you're finding this extremely easy. Extremely easy. Okay, let's write standard form equation. Given the center and the radius, put me on pause. Check your work. Man, was that easy or what? Right? I just stuck the information in. I had to do a little bit of change in here from a subtraction to an addition problem, and then I just squared the radius to get it in 4. Number 7, put me on pause. Woohoo, this is like piece of cake, I bet, for you. And so if you're not getting those answers, you want to come and see me not at class time, but before class time. Maybe shoot me an email and ask me a question about that, okay? This should be pretty quick and easy for you at this point. All right, once again, now I'm tying it to my I can statement that I gave you, okay? I can find the radius and the center of a circle given its equation. So put me on pause, see if you can do this one really quick. Come back and check it. And there you have it. Next one. All right, let's take a look at, I can graph the equation of a circle. Oops, I had some information there I need to get rid of. To do this, to graph the equation of a circle, I need to know what the radius is, and I need to know what the center point is. Okay? Those are the two things I need to do. So I'm going to grab that from the equation. The center is going to be a +2 because it's a subtraction of a 2, and it's going to be a -3. All right, very good, because it's an addition of 3. 16, square root of 16 is 4. Okay, number one wrong answer there is 8, so don't make that mistake. All right, so now I'm just going to simply plot those points and draw it. Okay, so I'm going to go put a point at 2, -3. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start drawing the radius. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to count from the center to the left, kind of the east direction here. We got 1, 2, 3, and then there's 4. Okay? And then I'm going to go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of the north direction. I'm just going to do this in all four directions now to the west. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then down to the south. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Very good. So now it's just a matter of doing my best drawing of a circle to connect those four outer points to create a circle that has a radius of 4 and a center at 2, 3. Okay? There you have it. How about this one? I can write the equation of a circle given two endpoints of its diameter. Okay, so the endpoints of a diameter are 1, 1, and 5, 1. Now let's make sure conceptually we know what we're talking about here when we're dealing with this problem. So there's the 2 points, and they represent the diameter of some circle. Okay, so here's the diameter, and then the circle goes around somehow and creates, whoops, I kind of missed that point. There's the circle, okay? So what I need to do is write an equation for the circle that has those points as the diameter. Okay, so to do that, just like any point, I need to, or any equation for a circle, I need to know the radius and I need to know the center. Okay, so now this one might be relatively easy. If this was on graph paper, you could probably figure some of this out on your own pretty quickly. But what I want to do is when it gets a little bit more complicated, you're going to need to draw upon some previous information to do it. So if you could see how you do this quickly just by counting points and stuff like that, I don't want you to see it this way. I want you to see how I'm going to do this problem using some formulas we've done in the past, because they're going to be a little bit harder than this. Okay, so let's find the center first. To find the center of a diameter, I'm going to use a midpoint formula. I'm just going to find now the midpoint between the 2 points that make up the diameter. Do this one on your own. Pull out your formula sheet, make sure you know that, and start doing this problem on your own. Then come back and check my work. And so that gives me 3 over here, and this gives me 1 over here, and there's my center. Okay, cool. Okay, the radius. Okay, so typically to find the radius, radius is a distance, and what I'm going to do is find the distance between the center point and one of the points on the circle. That'll give me the radius. And to find distance, I always use the distance formula. Okay, so I'm going to find the distance from the radius to the one of the points, and it doesn't matter which point we use, but from the center to the radius to the circle will give me the radius. Go ahead and figure out which points you're going to use in this equation and do it. If you're not sure, put it on or come back, go ahead and let it go through the pause time and see how it gets started. Once you have an idea, try to do it on your own. Okay, put me on pause if you think you know how to do it. So I found my center point to be 3, 1. So that's one of the points I'm going to use my distance formula. And I could choose between 1, 1 or 5, 1. I'm going to use the 5, 1 just because it has some different numbers than 1, 1. Okay? So then I'm just going to simplify this. I love when the 0 happens because it completely cancels it out and I don't have to worry about it. And there I have my radius of 2. Okay? All right, great. So now I can write my equation. So a little bit more thought-provoking problem, but we know how to do distance formula, we know how to do midpoint formula. So now let's just write our equation. We have our center, we have our radius. See if you can write the equation. Put me on pause, see if you get it right. And there you have it. Don't forget to square the radius, okay? There we have it. Try it problems. Take your time, write down those problems. Make sure you set up either a graph paper or you can just set up an X and Y axis and do the best you can to create some markings that make sense, and you're done. Bring those 3 problems in next class on a separate piece of paper than your notes and get 100%.